You know, there's a hidden system running in the background of your mind right now. It's this silent automatic reflex that, if you just let it run, becomes the single biggest destroyer of your own contentment. So today, we're going to expose it. We are deconstructing the entire system of social comparison, showing you not just that it happens, but exactly how this engine works, and more importantly, how you can get back in the driver's seat.
The only race you need to win is the one against your past self. We've all heard this, right? It sounds good, it feels right, but let's be honest. The reality for most of us is this constant, nagging awareness of everyone else running alongside us. And this isn't just some minor distraction, it's a huge paradox. We know, intuitively, that our own journey is what matters. And yet, our brains are literally hardwired to do the complete opposite. To scan, to measure, to see where we stack up, and then adjust our own self-worth based on that data. This is the invisible race we're all in, whether we like it or not.
So, to really get a handle on this, here's our game plan. First, we're going to define this invisible race and the toll it takes. Then we'll pop the hood on the comparison engine to see its moving parts. After that, we'll look at the psychological leverage points, basically why it has so much power over us. Then we get tactical with the decoupling protocol. And finally, we'll talk about what it actually means to be winning the real race.
All right, so let's start by putting a name to the problem. What exactly is this invisible race? Look, it's so much more than just wanting what someone else has. It's a deep, fundamental process that's running under the surface, and it's quietly draining your most precious resources, your focus, your energy, and your stability.
And here's the most important thing to get right away. Social comparison is not a character flaw. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a predictable, automatic reflex. Your brain does it before you're even aware of it. It's a feature, not a bug, of our evolutionary design. The problem is, in our modern world, that feature gets hijacked. That's the moment control slips away from you, when you start outsourcing your sense of value to your coworker's promotion or some random post in your feed. The second your self-worth is tied to something outside of you, you've lost control.
And this outsourcing creates a very specific, corrosive feeling: relative status anxiety. And no, this isn't just a flash of jealousy. It's that chronic, low-level hum of unease. That feeling that you're always a little bit behind, or maybe you're about to fall behind. Because your value isn't something you own, it's something that's tied to your rank against others. And that rank can change in a heartbeat. That instability, that's the real source of the anxiety.
And the costs are huge. I mean, they're tangible. This anxiety, it leads to crippling decision paralysis because you're too busy calculating your social position to make a clear choice for yourself. It creates constant emotional imbalance. Your mood gets yanked around by things you have zero control over. And it puts this immense load on your brain. All that mental energy you spend monitoring everyone else is energy you can't use for actually doing the work. And maybe worst of all, it makes you a sitting duck for any kind of marketing that uses scarcity to make you feel like you're being left behind.
Okay, so we've identified the problem. We see the damage it does. Now, let's get analytical. How does this system actually function? We're going to deconstruct the comparison engine piece by piece, because once you see how the machine works, you can start to dismantle its power over you.
So what's the fuel for this whole engine? Well, it's an ancient evolutionary need for what's called status signaling. I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, your survival literally depended on knowing your place in the tribe. Where did you stand? Were you safe? That programming is burned deep into our brains. The comparison engine is just that ancient survival software running on modern inputs, like Instagram feeds, office politics, and what kind of car your neighbor just bought.
And this whole process isn't random at all. It's a predictable, self-perpetuating loop. It kicks off with initiation. That trigger leads to escalation, the comparison itself. Then comes the really critical part, reinforcement, which delivers a tricky little payoff that just locks the whole habit in. It's a closed system, and understanding each of these 4 stages is the only way to break out.
So it all starts with step 1, initiation. And the trigger is always the same, uncertainty. Whenever you're not sure about your skills, your performance, or just where you fit in, your brain defaults to its old programming. Go find a benchmark. It starts searching for external data to solve that internal uncertainty. And that's the moment the engine roars to life. Maybe because of a new job, or just seeing a single post online.
Which brings us to step 2, escalation. Now that the engine's running, the comparison can go in one of 2 directions. First, there's upward comparison. You see someone you think is doing better. The emotional hit is instant, envy, or something even stronger called identity threat. This either freezes you with anxiety or it lights a fire under you to try and catch up. Then there's downward comparison.
You see someone you think is doing worse, and the response is a temporary little ego boost, a fleeting bit of relief from your own status anxiety.
And this is where the trap slams shut, because both of those paths create an addictive cycle. That relief you get from looking down on someone, it never lasts. The anxiety always comes back. And that just reinforces the need to compare again, to get another little hit of relief. Even that motivation you get from looking up is a trap, because it just confirms the idea that your internal state should be controlled by someone else's success. Either way, the loop gets stronger, forcing you to compare again and again, automatically.
So that loop is incredibly tough to break. Why? Why does it have such a grip on us? Well, it's because the system doesn't play fair. It doesn't rely on your conscious, rational mind. It exploits these deep, psychological weak spots. These are the leverage points that let the engine hijack your emotions.
So let's be crystal clear. You're not fighting some modern-day personal failing. You are fighting your own evolutionary hardware. The whole comparison engine is so effective because it taps directly into survival circuits that were built over millions of years. These reactions are fast, they're automatic, they're powerful because a long, long time ago they kept us alive. Now, that same wiring is being turned against us.
The first leverage point is called loss aversion. This is a huge one. Basically, the pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining that exact same thing. And here's the kicker. When it comes to social status, the fear of losing your spot is a much, much stronger motivator than the desire to get ahead. That fear is what fuels the constant anxious scanning of what everyone else is doing. Your brain is just wired to avoid slipping down a rung on the ladder at all costs.
The second leverage point is even more personal: identity threat. This is what happens when someone else's success doesn't feel inspiring, it feels like a direct attack on you. Identity threat is what turns your colleague's win into your personal loss. It hijacks your rational brain and triggers this primal fear of being left behind. So when they get a promotion, it literally feels like a demotion for you. It's not logical, but boy, is it a powerful automatic response.
And here's the strategic result of all this. The constant threat scanning from loss aversion, combined with the emergency alarms of identity threat, creates this massive, chronic cognitive load. Basically, your brain's CEO, the part responsible for rational thought and planning, is completely overwhelmed. You're just stuck in reactive survival mode, which makes it pretty much impossible to do the clear, strategic thinking you need to actually fix the problem.
Okay, we've looked at the problem, we've taken the engine apart, and we've found its weak spots. Now we pivot. We go from analysis to action. Because understanding the system is useless if you don't have a practical way to fight back. And this isn't about wishful thinking. This is a tactical countermeasure, a clear set of steps designed to break the loop and get your mental energy back.
So, it all boils down to this one tactical question. How do you actually break this self-feeding loop? When you feel that pang of envy or anxiety, how do you interrupt that automatic process and take back conscious control? The answer isn't to try harder. The answer is a protocol.
We call it the Temporal Decoupling Protocol. I know, it sounds a little complex, but the idea is actually incredibly simple. We're going to decouple your sense of value from other people and re-anchor it to your own timeline. It's a 4-step move. First, define your internal metric. Second, deploy a cognitive pause. Third, execute re-attribution. And finally, you shift to temporal comparison. Let's break down exactly what that means.
Step 1 is the most important move, and you do it ahead of time. You have to decide what your metric for success is before the comparison engine even gets a chance to start. And that metric has to be based on things you actually control: your process, your effort, your consistency. Not the result, not the applause, and definitely not what somebody else accomplishes. When you fix your metric to your own process, you starve the comparison engine of the uncertainty it feeds on.
All right, steps 2 and 3 are your real-time defense system. Because the trigger is going to hit. That's a guarantee. The moment it does, your first move is to deploy a cognitive pause. Just notice the feeling, the envy, the anxiety, and don't act on it. Just create a little space. In that space, you execute re-attribution. You consciously remind yourself that the other person's success is about their path, their work, their luck. Factors that have absolutely nothing to do with you or your worth. That's how you shut down the emotional hijack.
And finally, step 4 is the game-winning pivot. After you've hit the brakes on that automatic reaction, you have to deliberately steer your focus somewhere else. You shift from social comparison, you versus them, to temporal comparison.
You today versus you yesterday. Am I better than I was last month? Did I stick to my process this week? This is the only comparison that gives you useful, actionable data for your own growth. You're taking comparison back and turning it into a tool for progress, not a weapon of anxiety.
And here's the cool thing. Once you really get the system, you can do more than just defend yourself. You can use this knowledge to lead better. You can actively avoid triggering that destructive identity threat in your team. You can frame success as something everyone can achieve, not some zero-sum game. You start to build what's called referent power. That's influence that comes from respect and admiration, not from fear and rivalry. You become the person people want to follow, not the competitor they feel they have to beat.
Which brings us to our final stage, what it really means to win. See, winning isn't about being number one or beating everybody else. That's the old, broken logic of the comparison engine. Real, strategic mastery is about changing the game itself. It's about reaching a point where your own progress and your own stability are no longer hostage to what's happening outside.
Let's just state the core insight as plainly as possible. The moment you let another person, a competitor, a colleague, anyone, become your main yardstick for your own value, you have literally handed them the keys to your emotional stability. Your sense of well-being will now go up and down based on their actions, which you have no control over. That is a fundamentally weak, unsustainable way to operate.
True mastery, then, is the exact opposite. It's building a solid internal way to measure your own progress. It's a system for evaluating yourself that is resilient, stable, and completely immune to all the external noise. The success of other people can finally become what it should have been all along, just an interesting data point, or maybe even completely irrelevant. And so we end right back where we started, but now with a completely new strategic understanding. The only race you need to win is the one against your past self. This isn't just some nice motivational quote anymore. It's the defining principle of a winning strategy. It's your tactical objective. It is the only way to find real, sustainable progress in a world that is practically screaming at you to look everywhere else but at your own path forward.